Chapter 1. The Village in the Mist. The winding dirt road leading into the village was so narrow that only a single ox cart could pass. On either side, wild grass grew tall above a man's head, swaying and trembling in the night wind. Above, the pale crescent moon was half hidden by gray clouds, its weak light spilling down, casting everything in an eerie, dream-like glow. The village appeared through the thick mist, its low rooftops faint shadows crouched in silence. From afar, at the end of the road, a bell tolled, slow, hollow, each strike like a fist pounding against the chest. They said the bell only rang on certain nights, reminding the villagers of an ancient curse they must never forget. Every house was shut tight. Wooden shutters sagged with age, their cracks stuffed with straw and rags, as if to block any watching eyes from peering inside. Behind the dim glow of oil lamps, shadows moved briefly past windows before vanishing at once. No laughter, no voices, only the wind shrieking through the bamboo groves, blending with the hiss of mist crawling across the ground. At the heart of the village stood a colossal banyan tree, its gnarled trunk splitting into roots that coiled above the soil like giant serpents tangled together. The elders believed a 100-year secret lay buried beneath that tree. But no one dared dig, or even linger near, once the sun had set. That night, a lone traveler stumbled into the village. He wore a dark, dust-stained cloak, his eyes sunken with fatigue. Mud clung to his boots, leaving prints across the damp earth, leading him to a small inn, the only house with its door cracked open and a lamp burning inside. The innkeeper, an old, hunched woman, looked at him with hesitation in her weary eyes. "It's late. Where do you come from?" Her voice rasped, hoarse like wood smoked for too long. The traveler gave a faint smile, lowering his battered pack to the floor. "I crossed the mountains, lost my way. I only ask for shelter tonight." The old woman was silent for a moment, then nodded, though unease flickered across her face. She led him to a small back room and gave only one warning. "Do not go outside tonight. No matter what you hear, do not open the door." He frowned, but asked no questions. The room was simple: an old bamboo bed, a wavering oil lamp, and a large mirror dulled with age. Stains on the wall spread like the remnants of old blood. The night deepened. Outside, the distant drums of the ancient shrine began to beat, steady, relentless, each strike slicing the silence like an invisible blade. The traveler lay on the bed, eyes wide, fixed upon the ceiling. Then he heard it, a knock at the door. Soft, 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. He sat up instantly, ears straining. The hallway outside was silent. After a moment's pause, he crept toward the door, but the woman's warning echoed in his mind. "Do not open the door." The knocking came again, harder this time, urgent, like fists hammering against the rotting wood. His heart pounded, his hand trembled as it reached for the latch. And then, a freezing gust slipped through the cracks, snuffing out the oil lamp. Darkness swallowed the room. In the dim mirror standing in the corner, he saw it, a face, not his own, standing just behind him. Chapter 2. The Traveler and the Mirror. He jerked around in shock, but the room was empty, only patchy darkness and the stench of damp mold. On the wall, the old mirror quivered faintly, as if an invisible draft swept across its surface. The traveler stepped closer, brushing his hand across the thick layer of dust. The glass was clouded, but still faintly reflected his face, sunken eyes from the long road, cracked and parched lips. Yet in the blink of an eye, the reflection twisted and smiled. It was not his smile. He staggered back, heart pounding, cold sweat breaking across his neck. For a moment, he thought exhaustion had conjured the vision. But then the mirror began to crack. Fine fractures spread like a spider's web, and from them seeped a thick, red liquid, dripping slowly onto the floor. "You have arrived?" The voice was a cold whisper, not spoken aloud, but resonating inside his head, from the mirror itself. The traveler clutched his skull with both hands, trying to drive the sound away. Yet the whisper only multiplied. Clearer, louder, dozens, hundreds of voices rising together from the depths of a bottomless well. Return, blood, atonement? The oil lamp suddenly flared to life. At the doorway stood the old innkeeper, her eyes sharp as blades. "You saw it, didn't you?" Breathless, his back drenched with sweat, he stammered. "Saw what?" "The mirror. The old woman strode in, pulled a black cloth over the mirror's face, her voice trembling but stern. "This is not something outsiders should ever look upon. You should not remain here." He swallowed hard, but his gaze was resolute. "I cannot leave yet. The mountain road is dangerous. And I still have work to do." Her eyes narrowed, suspicion mingling with fear. "Who are you? Why have you come to this village?" The traveler was silent for a long time. Then he opened his pack and drew out a thick, leather-bound journal. Its yellowed pages were filled with jagged writing, carved like frantic knife marks. "I am searching for answers," he murmured, "and this journal led me here." The old woman stiffened, her aged eyes widened, suddenly sharp. That journal, was it his? Before he could ask, a shrill scream tore through the night, splitting the silence. It was the cry of someone being dragged into the abyss. The drums from the ancient shrine thundered faster, echoing across the mountains. The traveler bolted outside. The fog was so dense it seemed a wall of white, swallowing the path. At the far end of a narrow alley, he saw a figure being dragged by dark, clawing hands rising from the ground. He heard only one desperate cry, "Save me," before everything sank into silence. The earth sealed itself shut, as though nothing had ever happened. The traveler stood frozen, his body numb with cold. And then, through the suffocating mist, a pair of glowing red eyes flashed, staring straight at him, with a gaze colder and hungrier than death. Chapter 3. The Eyeless Shrine. The pounding of the drums slowly faded, leaving only a faint echo, like the heartbeat of a dying man. Mist coiled around the rooftops and bamboo groves, shrouding the village as though it were buried within a colossal grave. The traveler stood frozen, his eyes fixed on the patch of ground that had sealed itself after swallowing the other villager whole. He wanted to rush forward, to dig, but the earth was flat and cold, leaving no trace, only a few streaks of fresh blood glistening faintly in the mist. Behind him, the old innkeeper stumbled forward, her gnarled hand clutching his arm. "You saw it. The curse has not ended." He turned sharply, his eyes filled with tension. "What is happening here? What dragged that man into the ground?" The old woman sighed, her voice thin and weary, like a lament carried by the wind. "Do not ask. The more you know, the quicker you will die." He shook her hand off, determination flashing in his eyes. "I came here for answers. If you won't tell me, I'll find them myself." Without another word, he strode toward the far end of the village, where a stone path climbed to the ancient shrine. The shrine loomed beneath the cold moonlight. Its tiled roof sagged, green with moss, the cracked walls mottled and decayed like rotting flesh. At the gate, two stone lion statues stood headless, their torsos split with deep fissures. Weeds forced their way through the broken bricks, and the air reeked of mold laced with the faint tang of blood. The wooden doors hung ajar, creaking with each gust of wind, groaning like the last breath of the dying. He pushed the door. Inside was pitch dark, save for weak shafts of moonlight piercing holes in the roof. The air was damp, pressing down upon his chest. At the main altar stood a statue, massive, looming, its face gouged out, leaving only two empty eye sockets. Those black hollows seemed bottomless, pulling at his gaze. A shiver ran down his spine. For a fleeting instant, he thought he saw movement within the void, red, writhing worms squirming inside the gouged sockets. A chill swept through the shrine, carrying with it a faint whisper. "Blood, more blood, give me back my eyes." He recoiled, clutching the journal tight in his hands. From the far end of the shrine came a scraping sound, something crawling across the rotting floorboards. He lifted his head. In the shadows, a frail figure slithered forward, its tangled hair hanging over its face, limbs bent at impossible angles. Its body undulated like a serpent, bones clicking with every movement. The moonlight fell upon its face, ghastly white, hollow sockets gaping, empty. The eyeless creature lifted its head, opening a mouth torn wide and dripping red. A monstrous scream erupted, shaking the shrine. Dust rained down in sheets as the entire building trembled, on the verge of collapse. The traveler pressed against the wall, heart hammering in panic. And then, the journal in his hand sprang open, its pages trembling violently. Blood-red letters carved themselves onto the paper, fresh and wet as though written that very moment. "Give it eyes, or it will take yours." Chapter 4. The Stolen Eyes. The eyeless creature's scream reverberated through the shrine, shaking its rotting walls and sending roof tiles crashing down like hailstones. The traveler backed away until his spine pressed against the cold wooden wall. The journal in his hands trembled violently, its pages flipping as if an unseen hand rifled through them, scattering onto the dusty floor. The monster slithered closer, its skeletal fingers, tipped with claws like daggers, scraped against the wooden planks, carving deep grooves. With each step, its bones cracked and snapped, and its breath, seeping from its torn mouth, stank of rot so foul it made his stomach churn. "You," the creature rasped, its voice like the echo of a grave. "Your eyes. I need your eyes." Sweat slicked the traveler's palms as he clutched the journal tighter. In his mind, the bloody warning echoed, "Give it eyes, or it will take yours." But how? He snatched up a fallen page. On it, a crude sketch appeared. A man standing before a statue with hollow sockets, holding in his hands two crimson eyeballs. Beneath the drawing, trembling words read, "Eyes for blood, blood for life." The creature slithered toward the altar, tilting its faceless head, as though sniffing his breath. Then, with blinding speed, it lunged, its clawed hand slashed forward, inches from his face. In that split second, the traveler drew a small knife from his coat, the only weapon he carried, and plunged it down. The blade pierced the monster's arm. Instead of blood, a thick, black smoke hissed out, choking the air with its stench. The creature shrieked, convulsing violently, then collapsed against the statue. The altar statue's hollow sockets flared with a hellish red glow. Dust swirled in a vortex, ripping tiles from the roof, exposing the sky and its pale, clouded moon. The monster staggered upright, black blood spilling from its mouth. It screamed again, this time with agony and hunger. "Give me back my eyes." An unseen force lashed out, hurling the traveler against the wall. Blood trickled from his lips. The journal flew from his hands, landing open on the ground. Its pages ignited in cold blue flames, and from the fire came a chorus of whispers. "The blood moon rises, the sacrifice will begin. Traveler, you cannot escape." The creature lunged at him, hollow sockets oozing black ichor. Its mouth gaped wide, lined with jagged, glass-like teeth, and snapped down. But at that instant, a bell tolled from outside, sharp and piercing. The sound cleaved the air like a blade. The monster shrieked, its body writhing, black smoke pouring from its frame before it shattered into fragments of shadow. The shrine quaked, the altar statue cracked, and its glowing red eyes went dark. Silence returned, yet the floor was soaked with slimy, dark blood. The traveler lay gasping, chest heaving, crawling across the debris. He seized the half-burned journal. Its charred pages crumbled in his grip, but one line remained untouched, stark against the blackened paper. "Blood moon night, eyes for blood, blood for life." Outside, the bell still tolled, no longer slow and solemn, but frantic and urgent, like a warning that far worse horrors had yet to begin. Chapter 5. The Blood Moon Night. The toll of the temple bell echoed across the mountains, crashing down upon the village's ramshackle roofs. The traveler staggered out of the shrine, clutching the half-burned journal tightly in his hand. The fog was so thick and cold that his skin felt numb, his flesh stiff with frost. Looking up, he saw the moon breaking free from the clouds. Its silvery glow darkened, turning into a deep, heavy red that spread across the sky. The red was not like ordinary moonlight, it was murky, diluted, like thin blood dripping down, painting the world into a spectral sea of crimson. Dogs howled mournfully in all directions, though the houses were locked tight. From within came the wailing of children, the cries of women, and the trembling whispers of prayer. As soon as the traveler stepped down from the shrine's stone steps, cracks split open in the ground. Pale, skeletal hands clawed their way out, talons raking through the earth. From the soil crawled figures, tall, gaunt, their bodies twisted, faces deformed. They had no eyes, no noses, only mouths torn wide to the ears. Dozens, then hundreds, of mouths opened at once, screaming a shrill, piercing wail that ripped through the night like shattered glass. From the far end of the village came a scream of pure terror. A door burst open, and a man was dragged out, kicking wildly, fingernails tearing through the dirt. His wife and children shrieked, begging, but all they could do was watch as the eyeless shadows swallowed him whole upon the threshold. Blood splattered across the doorstep, staining it red. The traveler gripped his knife, his heart pounding as though it would explode. He knew now. This was the night of the sacrifice, just as the journal had foretold. He sprinted toward the inn. The door was sealed shut. He pounded on it with all his strength. "Open the door, quickly." From within, the old woman's trembling voice answered, "Resolute, you must leave now. This is the fate of the village. You cannot change it." "But I have the journal," he shouted, raising it high. "It records everything. It speaks of the blood moon, of the ritual. I need to know the truth." Silence. Then the door creaked open. The old woman stood there, her eyes clouded, her wrinkled face carved deep with pain. "If you truly have seen, then listen closely." She pulled him inside, barring the door, stuffing rags and wood into every crack. By the flickering oil lamp, she whispered, 100 years ago, there was a massacre. An entire family was slaughtered, their eyes gouged out as an offering to the god. Since then, the earth has been drenched in blood, their souls unable to pass on. Whenever the blood moon rises, they come to claim another life, to repay the debt of blood. The traveler opened the journal, his voice trembling. "Then, this was written by someone who witnessed it?" The old woman stared at him, her gaze burning with both hatred and fear. "No, that journal did not belong to a witness. It belonged to the one who carried out the massacre." The room froze. The traveler's heart sank into silence. The journal quivered in his grip, its half-burnt pages releasing the stench of scorched blood, the letters bleeding fresh red. Outside, the howls of the eyeless shadows grew louder, merging with the frantic thunder of the shrine drums. Above, the blood moon blazed at its peak. The old woman seized his hand, her eyes filled with tears. "You brought it here. Tonight, everything will be drowned." The words had barely left her lips when the door shuddered violently. Cracks spread across its surface, glowing red like flowing veins. And through the widening gap, a pale, skeletal hand slithered inside. Chapter 6. The Inn in the Fire of Blood. The door shook violently, old wooden planks splintering and flying across the room. Through the cracks, pale, clawed hands scraped deep gouges into the surface. The screams of the eyeless shadows poured in, chaotic, bloodthirsty, like the wails of 100 souls burning in hellfire. The old woman staggered back, her bony hand clutching the traveler's arm. "They're coming for you. You've awakened them." The traveler drew his knife, his eyes tense and alert. Outside, footsteps shuffled, and something massive pounded the ground, shaking the house with every strike. He knew the rotting wood wouldn't hold for long. And then, crash! The door burst open. The eyeless shadows flooded inside, their gaunt black bodies like brittle branches. Yet they moved with inhuman speed, their mouths stretched wide to their ears, shrieking in unison, the stench of rot snuffing out the oil lamp at once. In the darkness, their eyes glowed crimson, dozens, hundreds, fixing their gaze on him. The traveler roared, slashing his blade. The steel cut through one figure, and instead of blood, a plume of black smoke gushed out as the body disintegrated into ash. But more came, overwhelming him, dragging him down to the floor. The old woman screamed, grabbing the oil lamp and hurling it into the swarm. The fire burst, blue-green flames latching onto the shadows, their shrieks echoing as they writhed and dissolved. But the fire leapt to the wooden walls, igniting the inn itself. Thick smoke billowed upward. The red blaze mingled with the light of the blood moon outside, turning the inn into a blazing inferno. The traveler broke free of the shadows and rushed to the woman. He grasped her hand, pulling her toward the door, but she shook her head violently, tears streaming down her wrinkled face. "You must go. This is our burden. You cannot bear it for us." "No," he shouted through the flames. "If I leave, the entire village will die." Her trembling hand slipped something cold into his pocket, a small stone, blood red like congealed flesh, etched with strange ancient symbols. "This is the remaining eye. You must bring it to the shrine, only then can it end." Before he could ask, a massive eyeless shadow crashed down from the collapsing roof. Its gaping mouth clamped around the old woman, dragging her into the swirling black smoke. Her scream tore through the fire, then was swallowed whole. The traveler lunged forward, but his hands grasped only empty air. The house collapsed in a roar of flames, burying her within. He was hurled out onto the cold, wet ground. Struggling to his feet, he stared at the burning inn, its crimson blaze roaring into the sky. The old woman's cries were gone. In his trembling hand, the blood-red stone glowed with a sinister pulse, hot as though it were the beating heart of something still alive. Across the village, the shrine drums thundered faster and faster. Above, the blood moon blazed at its zenith, illuminating thousands of eyeless shadows crawling from the earth, flooding every street. All of them turned toward the ancient shrine, and he understood his only path left was to enter it. Chapter 7. Return to the shrine. The village drowned beneath the grotesque glow of the blood moon. Everywhere, cries and wails echoed, as if the underworld itself had risen to weep. Eyeless shadows crawled from the earth, swarming across rooftops, clinging to bamboo walls, slithering like a tide of monstrous insects. The traveler clenched the blood-red stone in his hand. It pulsed hot, its crimson glow beating in rhythm with the thunder of the shrine drums. Each strike squeezed his heart, boiling the blood in his veins as though dragged along by the curse. He charged down the stone path leading to the shrine. The ground split beneath him, pale skeletal hands clawing at his ankles. He hacked wildly with his knife, the blade flashing as the shadows dissolved into smoke. Yet the closer he drew to the shrine, the thicker they came, waves upon waves. Endless as the sea, the drums thundered, merging with the howls, drowning out even his ragged breath. The shrine loomed through the crimson mist, darker and taller than before. Its heavy wooden doors stood wide open, like the jaws of some colossal beast awaiting him. Blood poured down the steps, dripping from each stone as though the shrine itself bled. He stepped inside. Darkness pressed in. The idol still towered on its altar. But now, from its hollow sockets, torrents of black blood gushed forth, filling the shrine with the stench of rot. Then, from the corners of the hall, shapes emerged, giants, not frail shadows, their bodies twisted grotesquely, ribs jutting like broken branches, jaws unhinged and fanged like steel traps. Each step cracked the wooden floorboards, clouds of dust rising in their wake. A voice boomed, deep and earthen, as though from the bowels of the world itself. You have brought the eye. Blood shall flow. The sacrifice shall begin. The traveler raised the red stone. Its light flared, forcing the giants to recoil. But the idol shuddered violently. Its altar split, spraying blood that flooded the shrine. The empty sockets blazed crimson, stabbing him like blades. The journal in his pocket flew open, its pages tearing loose and plastering themselves to the blood-soaked floor. Letters of blood rose upon them, glowing. Place the eye in the statue. Your blood will be the offering. Refuse, and you will be devoured. The traveler trembled. Sweat and blood mingled beneath his feet, soaking his shoes. His heart pounded like a drum of war. The old woman's last cry rang in his ears. You must bring it to the shrine, only then can it end. A giant hand swung down from the shadows, nearly crushing him. He rolled aside, the red stone tumbling from his grip, skittering across the floor to the altar's base. Its light blazed, flooding the shrine in scarlet. The idol stirred, cracks split its stone body, massive arms breaking free, claws raking the walls. Blood spewed from its mouth, showering the ceiling, raining down in a storm of gore. The traveler crawled forward, seizing the stone with trembling hands. 100 voices surged in his mind. Place it, trade eyes for blood, trade blood for life. Outside, the drums fell silent, the entire village drowned in deathly stillness. Only he remained, in the shrine, with the idol, and the throbbing blood eye in his hands. He stood before the statue, chest heaving. If he placed the stone into its empty socket, would the curse end? Or would he himself become the sacrifice? Above, the blood moon glared through the broken roof, its crimson light spilling over his trembling eyes trapped between life and death. Chapter 8. The Blood Ritual. The traveler stood motionless before the colossal statue. In his hand, the blood-red stone pulsed like a living heart, each throb stabbing pain deep into his palm. Its sinister glow shone straight into the hollow sockets of the idol, thickening the air, pressing heavy like the weight of hundreds of restless souls closing in. Whispers rose around him, dense and overlapping. Place the eye? blood for blood, you shall be the last one." His legs trembled, yet his eyes burned with defiance. He shouted, as if to drown his fear, "If this is the only way, then I will do it." He lifted the stone high, then with all his strength, thrust it into the statue's right socket. The instant it touched, a blinding crimson light erupted. The statue quaked violently, blood gushing from its cracks, raining down in torrents. From the shrine's corners came agonized screams as the towering monsters writhed, their twisted bodies exploding into black smoke. But at once, a terrible force seized him. Invisible hands, sharp as iron hooks, clamped onto his shoulders, dragging him toward the idol. "Your blood," the cavernous voice roared, pounding through his chest. Agony ripped through him. Blood streamed from his mouth, from the veins in his arms, pulled mercilessly into the statue. He screamed, but his strength drained with every heartbeat. The altar trembled. Both sockets of the idol now burned with scarlet fire. Images flooded his mind. The massacre a century ago. Villagers in a frenzy, binding an innocent family. The cries of children, the hiss of blades, eyes torn out, dropped into a bowl of blood offered to the god. And among the blood-stained mob was the hand that wrote the journal. The same handwriting he held now, belonging to the very murderer who began it all. His vision spun. His heart pounded wildly. His blood poured onto the floor, mingling with the thick black stream. Then the statue's stone lips cracked open. The deep voice thundered, each word sharp and clear. "The eye is mine. Now, your life will pay." A massive hand burst from the idol, stone fingers coiling cold and heavy around his throat. His breath choked, his sight blurred, at the brink of death. The journal on the floor erupted in flames once more. Across its burning pages, one final line blazed in blood. "Only when the bearer of the eye accepts death will the curse be broken. Resist, and the village shall be devoured." His eyes widened, lips trembling. Life and death now lay before him, divided by a single choice. Outside, the blood moon swelled as if to burst, its crimson light devouring the sky. Chapter 9. The Traveler's Choice. The massive stone hand tightened around his throat. Bones cracked, breath strangled, his vision blurred, the world dissolving into a suffocating red haze of blood. In his mind, the cavernous voice thundered, like 1,000 tormented souls screaming at once. "You are the sacrifice. You will end the cycle. You will die for them all." The journal lying in the pool of blood burst into flames, its bleeding letters dripping onto the floor, knitting themselves into a single sentence. "If you resist, the village dies. If you accept, you die." The traveler thrashed, his eyes bloodshot. Outside, the shrine drums thundered again, frenzied and deranged, and within each beat, he heard the cries of the villagers. Children wailing, women calling for their husbands, bodies dragged across the ground, blood pouring in streams. The entire village was being devoured by the blood moon's night. A thought seared through him. He roared, summoning the last of his strength, his hand clutching the small knife. If his blood was to be spilled, then he would decide how. "I will not die like cattle for slaughter," he snarled, eyes blazing. He drove the blade into the stone hand clutching his neck. From the wound burst not blood, but streams of crimson light that tore the air itself. The statue shrieked, the shrine convulsing violently. At that instant, the red stone in its socket shattered. Fragments scattered across the floor, glowing like embers. Scarlet light surged through the cracks, piercing the broken roof, lancing upward into the sky. The blood moon faltered, its crimson glow twisted black, spreading like ink, devouring the heavens into a vast abyss. The eyeless shadows shrieked throughout the village, their bodies tearing apart, unraveling into smoke before being sucked into nothingness. The villagers collapsed, weeping as the blood vanished from the streets as though it had never been. Inside the shrine, the idol split apart, chunks of stone collapsing. From its socket spewed red light. Then it crumbled into ash. The traveler fell to the floor, blood spilling from his chest and lips, soaking his clothes. His breath was faint, a thread in the wind, yet on his lips flickered a faint smile. For he knew, he had broken the cycle. Wind howled through, sweeping away the ashes, silencing the drums, extinguishing the screams. The village sank into utter silence, bathed once more in pale, ordinary moonlight. Beside him lay the journal, Its last pages had burned away. Only the charred leather cover remained, marked with a fading smear of blood. You have chosen, but the price never ends. He closed his eyes. Darkness consumed him. Chapter 10. False Peace. Dawn broke. The mist thinned, and pale sunlight spilled over the ramshackle rooftops, illuminating streets still stained with dried blood. Yet strangely, there were no screams, no eyeless shadows lurking in the alleys. One by one, the villagers cracked open their doors, their eyes wide with disbelief and hesitation. They wondered if they were still dreaming, for only last night they had witnessed hell itself. And yet now, silence reigned, so heavy it was terrifying. A mother stepped into the courtyard, staring in astonishment at her child still safe in her arms. A man stumbled onto his porch, staring at his trembling hands, clean, no longer drenched in blood. Soft sobs rose among the people, a mixture of joy and terror, as none could believe they had survived. At the center of the village, the ancient banyan cast its long shadow. Beneath it, the earth was scarred, as though hands had clawed their way up the night before. But now all was still, save for the dark stains of blood seeping like thirsty veins through the soil. The old shrine, however, lay half in ruin, roof tiles shattered, the altar collapsed, the god's statue broke into pieces. Ash coated the stone floor, carrying the bitter stench of burnt flesh. Amid the ashes, they found a body. The traveler lay motionless, his face pale, his eyes closed. Blood drenched his clothes, and yet, his hand still clutched the charred journal, as though even death could not pry it from him. The villagers gathered, whispering to one another. Some wept, others fell trembling to their knees in prayer. A man muttered hoarsely. It was him, he ended the night of the blood moon. Together, they lifted his body, laying him beneath the ancient banyan tree. The elders spoke trembling words of farewell, honoring him as one who had sacrificed for the village. Incense was lit, and tears flowed freely. As the sun rose higher, light spilled across the narrow streets. Children ran laughing, shops opened, the sound of pestles pounding rice and voices calling out filled the air, as though calamity had never come. But, when night returned, the moon rose again, not red, but pale silver. The villagers sighed in relief, shutting their doors, finally resting in peace. At the banyan tree, where the traveler had been buried, the charred journal still rested on the fresh mound of earth. The night wind turned its final page. Bloody words shimmered, clear as if freshly written. You chose death, but the curse never dies. From the depths beneath the banyan, two crimson eyes opened. A cracked, twisted grin stretched wide in the darkness. Above, the silver moon blurred. From its heart, a thin streak of red seeped outward, like blood spreading across the sky. Chapter 11. The Soul in the Shadows. The third night after the blood moon, the village had slowly returned to its ordinary rhythm. People repaired broken rooftops. Children played in the yards. Laughter mingled with the pounding of pestles, as though the nightmare had finally passed. But when night fell, beneath the ancient banyan tree where the traveler was buried, the earth began to stir. A cold wind swept through, the leaves shrieking like a lament. The charred journal atop the grave suddenly opened, its pages spinning wildly, glowing a furious red. From that light, the traveler's form emerged. His body still lay beneath the soil, but his spirit pulled free, translucent, blurred like mist. His eyes snapped open, blazing red like burning coals. A voice echoed from the depths. I am not freed. He looked upon the village. The people slept peacefully, unaware, yet through his eyes, the world warped. On rooftops, in corners, shadows writhed, crawling silently. The eyeless ones, thought banished, had returned, slinking through cracks of darkness. The traveler cried out to warn them, but his voice carried only as wind. No one heard. Suddenly, a small figure darted across the courtyard, a girl of about 7. Hair loose, clutching an old doll, she giggled as she ran circles around the banyan. But behind her, an eyeless shadow slithered forth, skeletal arms stretching, ready to drag her beneath the earth. Watch out, the traveler screamed. Lunging, his spectral hand passed straight through the child. He could not touch her, but when his palm struck the shadow, the red light in his eyes flared, and the creature shrieked, bursting into smoke. The girl froze, startled, then clutched her doll tight and bolted home. The traveler stood still, realization dawning. He no longer belonged to the world of the living. Yet he bore the power to fight the creatures. The journal glowed again, its pages turning. Bloody words etched themselves across them, carving directly into his mind. You have become the eyes of the curse. You shall see what no one else can see. You shall fight in their blood's stead. Above, the silver moon dimmed. From its surface spread a streak of red, like a wound that would never close. And he understood, the curse had not ended. It had only changed its form. The villagers believed themselves safe, but the cycle of blood endured. And he had become part of it. Chapter 12. Blood and Sin. The seventh night after the blood moon. The village bustled by day, but when night fell, darkness swallowed every narrow alley. The traveler, now nothing more than a restless spirit, wandered silently through the village. His burning red eyes revealed what the living could never see. On rooftops, eyeless shadows crouched, their twisted faces peering silently below. In a courtyard, where a mother clutched her child in sleep, a long, skeletal hand reached from the soil, groping at the bed. In the cattle pen, animals bellowed in terror, for they saw what their masters could not. He rushed forward, scarlet light blazing from his eyes. The shadows shrieked, dissolving into smoke, yet each time they vanished, they reappeared elsewhere, multiplying, endless, like maggots writhing in a wound that would never heal. The traveler realized, he could never destroy them completely. He could only bind them, delay them. One night, he entered the great house at the edge of the village. Inside, the old village chief knelt before an altar, murmuring prayers. His eyes were closed, lips trembling in silent supplication. The traveler drifted closer, and then, his red eyes pierced the veil of the past. Visions shattered before him, like mirrors breaking apart. 100 years ago, it was the ancestors of this very chief who led the villagers to gouge out the eyes of an innocent family. Offering them to the god, they recorded the crime in blood, passing the cursed journal from generation to generation, burying the truth beneath silence. Each time the blood moon rose, a new generation was forced to offer sacrifice to atone, yet none ever escaped. The traveler staggered, fury suffocating his chest. His voice boomed, shaking the room. You created the curse. The chief jolted, eyes wide with terror. Though he could not see the spirit, he heard the voice. Trembling, he whispered like a man confessing, "We cannot escape. This is the price our ancestors bound us to pay." "The price?" The traveler roared like thunder. "You murdered the innocent, their blood spilled, and you hoarded fear as your inheritance." Suddenly, from the shadows, the eyeless ones crawled forth around the altar. But they did not attack the chief. Instead, they bowed low, pressing their faces to the ground, as if in worship. The traveler froze. He understood at last. They were not wandering phantoms. They were the true forms of the villagers, their guilty souls, never granted release. By day, they were human. By night, they became monsters. Outside, the silver moon bled once more, a fresh streak of red spreading like a wound that would never heal. And he knew, the curse was not merely blood and eyes. It was the very deceit that coursed through the veins of the entire village. Chapter 13. The Truth in Blood. That night, the traveler stood in the village courtyard, his spectral figure flickering, his burning red eyes piercing the darkness. The shrine's drums were silent, yet his heartbeat thundered like rolling storm clouds. He cried out, his voice echoing across the village. "You, villagers, you think yourselves victims? No, you are the monsters." Doors creaked open. One by one, the villagers emerged, their eyes bewildered. Yet under the spreading crimson moon, their faces began to twist. Smiles split wide, skin cracked, and empty sockets wept streams of thick black blood. A child clutching a doll shrieked, her eyes hollow, void of pupils. The woman holding her trembled, but her face elongated, stretching grotesquely, her mouth tearing open like a gash. Bones snapped, flesh split. Before his eyes, the entire village, every man, woman, and child, transformed into the eyeless shadows. The traveler staggered back, fury and despair flooding him. "So, for 100 years, you've lived as humans by day, and turned into demons by night?" The village chief, his frail frame now warped into a hulking monster, stepped forward, his gaping mouth opened, and in a voice low and grinding, yet articulate. He spoke. "We are no longer human. We are the mark of sin. But we need you, outsider, to continue the cycle of sacrifice." "I will never be your sacrifice," the traveler roared. The eyeless ones shrieked together, a cacophony that rattled the rooftops. They lunged, ravenous as wolves. The traveler's eyes flared, crimson light exploding outward. Shadows screamed as they disintegrated under its glow. Yet with every one destroyed, black blood pooled across the ground, spreading into twisting words. "You cannot save. You cannot kill. You can only become one of us." The traveler reeled. He slashed. He screamed. He fought. But the blood script spread wider, clinging to his legs, dragging him down. In the reflection of the spreading pool, he saw himself, not a traveler, but a pale face, hollow sockets, a mouth torn wide, one of them. He trembled, screaming in madness, "No, I am not you." The entire village howled in unison, 100 voices answering like a single echo. "You are already one of us." Above, the crimson moon erupted, its light cascading across the world, all dissolved into the color of blood. Chapter 14. The final page of blood. The crimson moon poured down like an ocean of blood over the village. All the villagers had turned into eyeless horrors, surrounding him, shrieking so fiercely it seemed they would tear the sky apart. The earth beneath his feet bled, lines of blood twisting and coiling around his ankles, dragging him under. The traveler screamed, thrashing. His body trembled, his flesh chilled, his vision dimming. In the reflection of the blood at his feet, his face was no longer his own, it was a hollow visage. Mouth split grotesquely wide. "No," he rasped, his burning red eyes flaring violently. At that instant, the charred journal fell from the branches of the banyan, striking the ground before him. Blood from the earth surged into it, forcing it open. Pages spun wildly in the wind, glowing crimson like burning embers. A final page appeared, the handwriting trembling yet sharp, as if freshly written. "To break the curse, you must offer your own eyes in place of those taken. The sinner's blood shall feed the demons. The sacrificer's eyes shall erase them." He froze. Everything, the red stone, the idol, the endless rituals, had been only fragments. The true price was not his life. It was his eyes. Around him, the eyeless ones howled, urging, hungering. The monstrous village chief crawled forward, his voice booming like thunder. "You are our eyes. Place them. Complete the circle of blood." The traveler gripped his knife. Cold sweat streamed down his brow. His throat clenched. His heart pounded. His eyes, the last barrier separating him from the abyss, were the key. If he obeyed, he would be blind. If he refused, he would be consumed, bound forever to the blood night. He raised his head, his eyes blazing like flames. Amid the roars and the cracking earth, he whispered to himself, "I did not come here to live. I came here to end it." He lifted the knife, its blade gleaming, pressing it against his eye. Blood spurted from the journal, swirling into a crimson circle at his feet. The village fell into silence. Thousands of hollow sockets turned toward him, waiting. And then, he drove the blade into his own eye. A scream ripped from his soul, merging with the agonized wails of the entire village. Blood gushed, spilling onto the journal's final page. At once, the letters ignited, spiraling into a storm before exploding in a blinding white light. The earth quaked. Above, the blood moon convulsed, its scarlet stain recoiling, collapsing into a radiant halo. The eyeless ones shrieked, their bodies cracking, shattering into ash, drawn into the searing light. The colossal village chief reached out, roaring in despair, before his body exploded into black dust. The light devoured all. Then darkness fell. In the silence, the traveler knelt, his eyes now hollow sockets. Yet on his blood-stained lips flickered a faint smile. "I have seen the final light." Chapter 15. Dawn on the ashes. Morning came. The first sunlight after the blood moon fell upon the village. No more screams. No more eyeless shadows prowling the alleys. The dirt roads lay bare. The stains of blood dried stiff, leaving only a faint metallic stench. The villagers opened their doors. They stepped out, their eyes dazed as if waking from a long nightmare. None could recall clearly what had happened. Only fragments of horrific dreams, rivers of blood. The pounding drums of the shrine. On the ground before the courtyard, The cursed journal had crumbled into ash. By the banyan tree lay the traveler's body. His eyes were hollow sockets. Dried blood crusted around them. Yet his face was serene, as though he had finally paid a debt centuries old. The villagers gathered in silence. None spoke. They stood, gazing at the corpse with terror and gratitude. At last, the village chief, now returned to his frail human form, tears streaking his face, whispered, "He bore the sin for us all." They buried the traveler beneath the banyan, where the soil still bore the imprint of blood. The village elders spoke trembling words of farewell, their voices carried by the morning breeze. Children scattered wildflowers upon the grave. The sun climbed higher, illuminating each house, each face. Birds sang, wind swept the fields, and life seemed to return after a century lost in shadow. The village held its breath, then wept. Tears mingled with trembling laughter, as though they had been born anew. "The curse has ended," someone whispered. But beneath the earth, deep within the banyan's roots, faint red eyes opened once more. They blinked, gazing through the soil, staring upon the sunlit village above. Invisible lips curved into a smile. A hoarse voice, thin as the wind, whispered, "No one truly escapes. Blood always demands blood. It is only another's turn." High above, the pale daytime moon lingered faint in the sky. From its edge seeped a thin streak of red, like a drop of blood. And thus, the cycle of the curse was not broken. Epilogue. The seed of the curse. Many years after the final night of the blood moon, the village seemed reborn. Children grew up, rice fields ripened golden, and laughter echoed along the narrow paths. The villagers spoke of the traveler as a savior, the one who had broken the circle of the curse with his death. His name was carved upon a small stone stele beneath the ancient banyan tree. Each year, on the day of his passing, offerings and incense were laid as remembrance. The elders told the young that he had brought back the light, that the village would forever know peace. But none realized, beneath the soil, within the tangled roots, a dark crimson vein still flowed. One ordinary full moon night, as children played in the courtyard, a boy of the village suddenly heard a whisper. He looked up at the banyan, his innocent eyes gleaming. The voice coiled into his mind, faint yet sweet. "Do you wish to see what no one else can?" The boy hesitated, but curiosity stirred. He nodded. In that instant, his pupils tightened into a single red dot. He sat still, smiling strangely, while the laughter of the other children rang around him. None noticed how, under the moonlight, his eyes flickered with a faint crimson glow. The very same glow that once burned in the traveler's eyes. The banyan shuddered, its leaves falling like tears. Deep within its trunk, countless red eyes opened in silence, watching the village. And so, the curse had never truly ended. It merely lay dormant, waiting for the blood moon to return.